Hey, Steve Stine from GuitarZoom here, and I just wanted to show you a couple things that I'm using. I play at a church in Fargo, and at the current time, we're not using amps on stage, so I'm using what's called a FlyRig, if you've ever heard of that before, by Tech21. It's a Sans amp that has some other features in it. So what I want to show you is what I'm using right now, and I'm running it direct into the PA, and it seems to be working pretty well. But I came across a different pedal it's a new pedal by Digitech called a cab driver. So I just wanted to show you kind of what I've got going here and see if I can help you a little bit. And of course, if you have any suggestions, I'm open to that as well. I have always been a player that plays with large amps, way too loud, all that sort of thing. And obviously that doesn't work very well in the church situation. I play in a bunch of different bands, but playing in church is certainly something that I do. So trying to dial in a tone that sounds good but doesn't sound too, bedroom-ish, if you will, which is really hard to do when you're not playing through an amp. So what I want to show you first over here is the FlyRig. Now I've got the Richie Kotzen version, and I think it's really cool. And I enjoy the sound that I get out of it, but I tend to like it more when I'm running it in front of one of my amps. It's a really cool pedal to bring along. For instance, if you're touring and you're using different amps night after night, what you can do with an amp like this FlyRig or this pedal is that you can kind of dial in your guitar amp to be, just sort of neutral, and then run that pedal in front of it, and that way you can kind of get a tone that you're used to getting on a regular basis. You can tweak the amp, of course, however you like, but it works really well for that. Well, what I'm using it for at this point is not that. I'm not running it into an amp at all. I'm running it direct into the PA. So what I'm going to do is just play a little bit, let you hear it. Right now what I've got is just a little bit of delay on. You can see whenever I point over here, it'll go over here. But I've got the delay on. So... And again, just a little bit of delay in the background. And I've just got the Sans amp on right now. So we just kind of... It sounds like with just the Sans amp, and it sounds okay. It's hard for me to dial in a super nice clean tone with the Sans amp. Yes, I can back off the drive and stuff, but it just seems like I'm not really able to get a really crystal, kind of sound. So what I do is I tend to run the drive just a little bit up and get more of that kind of sound, and then I can just pick lighter. It sounds pretty good. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to engage the second channel of the FlyRig, which is the Distortion channel. Okay. It sounds pretty good, pretty aggressive. This channel as well, and back it off a little bit. So it does a pretty good job of backing off. Okay, and then you actually have what's called the boost channel, which for the Richie Kotzen is the OMG channel, and that's when you need more. So I've got the boost for me isn't really something that I use, but it could certainly be helpful if I was playing something where I had, you know, a more metal tune and I really needed more distortion for a solo or something like that, I might go to that. But at this point, I'm not really using the boost pedal. So but that gives you an idea what the FlyRig sounds like. I'm just running it flat direct. It's running out of, I'm running out of the FlyRig into the cab driver, which is not on yet, and then I'm running into my gear. So I'm not running anything else. You're hearing just the FlyRig. Those two channels. But the problem I was having was it just sounds too, for some reason it was just sounding too, I don't know what a good word is, but I wasn't liking the sound I was getting. We used some really nice in-ear monitors, and I needed it to sort of tame up a little bit from where it's at. And again, not in terms of more distortion, less distortion, that sort of thing. There's just a sound that sounds less authentic than what I'm looking for. So what I decided to do was run over to the local guitar store in Fargo, which is called Flatland Guitar, and they were gracious enough to borrow me this cab driver pedal. So what I want to do is show you what that pedal does. Now, I used this pedal last Sunday, and I liked the way it sounded out front, and I liked the way it sounded in my ears. Now, whether or not that, I'm not convinced that I totally like it, and that's why I thought I would share it with you. So what I want to do is I'm going to play just a little bit, and I want to keep the pedal off, and then I'm going to turn the pedal on and show you what it sounds like. Some palm muting here so you can kind of hear this. Now, what is the cab driver? Well, it's a pedal that has a bunch of guitar cabinets emulated into the pedal itself. They're called impulse responses, and that's what it has. And if I show you real quick the pedal itself, again, I don't want to get too involved here because you can always read the manual, but basically you have the choice of choosing guitar or bass, and then depending on what you choose, the cabs are different is what it is. So if I choose the guitar, what I can do then is I can choose from a variety of different kinds of cabinets here, from 112s to 212s, you know, Marshall sounding cabs and things like that. There's a bunch of different things in there. And there's two channels. That's all it really is there's an A channel and a B channel. So I can run my guitar in here into the pedal, and then I can actually run out with the A and or the B. So if I run both of these out, I can actually choose two different cabinets. So I have my guitar tone coming in, and then I might choose a Marshall cabinet and some other kind of cabinet, you know, a Fender style cabinet or something like that. But right now I'm just running it out with one cabinet, which means that this second channel is I don't need it. So there's nothing I need to do here. So I'm just going to focus on this first channel here. So basically what I'm going to do here is these are pretty much zeroed out, these first ones here, and I'll get to those in just a second. But I'm just going to kind of roll through these cabinets and show you. Again, this is the sound without it. So what I'm going to do is engage it, and I've got the first cabinet on here. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea of what they sound like. Now I'll give you back just the normal thing here. Okay, so again, I haven't completely made up my mind whether I like it or don't like it, but it seemed to sound really good through my ears, through my in-ear monitors and out front. Now, I could try and go through what all of these different cabinets are, but the truth is I don't know because I'm pretty new to the pedal, and the honest truth is after owning a lot of Line 6 stuff over the years, I try and avoid the names because you'll go, oh, I love Fender, therefore this has got to be the one, and then all of a sudden you're kind of skewed in actually listening to it because you're convincing yourself that it's supposed to sound like a Marshall, or it's supposed to sound like a Mesa Boogie, or it's supposed to sound like a Fender Twin or something like that. So I don't really do that. I try and avoid that and just go by the sound that I'm hearing and decide which one seems like it's the best sound for what I'm looking for. So two things. Number one, I don't know what cabs they are. And number two, I try to avoid even paying attention to that. I just kind of sweep through those and decide what it is that I like. Now, if you go back to this first button here, which is the same on both sides, but if you go back to this, basically the bottom outside here is the actual volume of the pedal. So if you're running, this pretty hot, if you're running the FlyRig, for instance, or whatever it is you're using, you could use it literally just as a distortion pedal and run it in here. If you've seen any of the demos that Digitech has. But so if I'm running in here and it's running a little hot, this will light up in a different color as I play. So you see how that turned red? So if for some reason I don't want to adjust the pedal, I can come over here and I can adjust this volume and tweak it a bit so I'm not overdriving the pedal. And then this top one is kind of interesting. This is more of like a bit of a frequency sweep. Okay. But again, for me, for my purposes, I try not to use the pedal as to massively tweak my tone, because if that's the truth, then either A, my tone to begin with was really bad, in my opinion, or number two, I don't really need the pedal. If I need to tweak it that much, something else is probably wrong. And again, that's just my opinion, but that's kind of how I approach these things. So, but that's what it does. And so what I'd like to hear from you is what you think about some of those sounds that you've heard. First of all, what do you think of the FlyRig running it direct like I'm doing? And again, you're going to tweak it a little bit depending on, more or less distortion. What with a pedal like this, the problem that I have is I try not to. I kind of like that sound. So it's pretty easy to go back and forth. What I don't really get out of the pedal is a really great clean sound. Now, again, somebody else might have dialed it in and found a perfect clean sound, which is great. I'd love your opinion on that. So basically, I'm just using it as a bit of gain with just the Sans amp. And then when I go to the other channel, that's when I can kick in and do my stuff. But I can still back off my volume and get a pretty good tone out of it. And then just trying to kind of tweak it with this pedal here to see if I can get something a bit more over the top. So hopefully that kind of shows you a few different things. Obviously, the fact that you can actually run a pedal behind or in front of this FlyRig. I've seen a lot of different videos where people are wondering whether you can, and you certainly can. You can run pedals in front of it. You can run pedals after it. And it seems to respond quite well to the pedals. And then just give you an introduction to what the cab driver does and see what you think of it. So take care and let me know what you think.